Max Verstappen's dominance just met a wall he did not see coming.
The FIA has confirmed a technical directive that cuts Red Bull's core performance concept from Miami, a system worth nearly half a second per lap, now declared beyond the limits. This is not a minor adjustment. This is a structural reset, and for the driver who redefined modern Formula One, the question is no longer about speed. It is about something far more fragile. Before Miami, Red Bull was strong but within reach. After Miami, they became almost a full second faster. That transformation centered on redirecting hot exhaust gases toward the rear wing and diffuser to generate downforce without drag. The data shows this delivered 30 to 40 kilograms of extra grip at high speed, but removing that system destabilizes the entire architecture of the car, the rear balance, the driver confidence, everything Verstappen relied on. So when the platform that made every lap predictable suddenly becomes a moving target, what happens to the champion who built his edge on knowing exactly where the limit sits? The answer will not be found in a single lap time. It will be written in tire wear, strategic calls, and moments when confidence matters more than raw speed. And that is where this story gets complicated. Because while Verstappen adapts, the data that explains exactly how much ground has been lost tells a completely different story. The numbers behind Red Bull's Miami leap tell a deeper story. Max Verstappen's qualifying advantage jumped from 0.3 to 0.9 overnight, with Sector 2 alone accounting for a quarter second. This was not evolution, this was a fundamental shift. But when the FIA removes the concept that delivered that shift, the question becomes not how much time is lost, but where exactly it disappears. Red Bull's race pace consistency, with lap-to-lap variance under 0.15 seconds, relied on the predictable aero platform the blown exhaust provided. Without it, simulations project variance increasing to 0.25 to 0.30 seconds. That inconsistency forces drivers to leave margins, and margins are where championships slip away. For McLaren fans watching the MCL 39 gain ground, this is the opening that changes everything. But the lap time loss is only half the story. Inside the garage, engineers modeled fallback setups before the FIA directive dropped. The real challenge is rebuilding driver confidence in a car that no longer behaves the same way. And that is where this story gets complicated. Because the engineering truth behind what the garage knew reveals a far more complex puzzle waiting to be solved. Red Bull's RB21 was engineered around a secret that changed how the car breathed. The blown exhaust concept turned waste energy into a weapon, with exhaust temperatures near 900 degrees Celsius energizing the diffuser. But what no broadcast covered is this. The system was woven into the car's skeleton. The rear suspension geometry, the floor sealing, every detail calibrated to that predictable plume. Adrian Newey once said the most efficient downforce is the downforce you do not pay for in drag. This concept generated an estimated 30 to 40 kilograms of extra grip at 250 kilometers per hour without adding drag. Remove that flow and the mechanical balance map shifts. The car no longer responds the same way. And that is where this story gets complicated. When the aero platform changes, the driver's relationship with the limit changes too. Verstappen built his edge on knowing exactly when the rear will step, but that knowledge was calibrated to a car that no longer exists. Sources indicate the FIA's directive was not sudden, with warnings shared weeks before. And that is where the human factor enters, because while engineers recalibrate the car, drivers must recalibrate their instincts, splitting the Red Bull lineup in two very different directions. Max Verstappen has built his reputation on dancing at the absolute limit, but that dance requires a partner he can trust. The RB21's rear-end stability, once guaranteed by the blown exhaust, is now a variable. Liam Hadjar, still learning Formula One at the highest level, faces a different challenge. When the car stops behaving the same way, confidence becomes the scarcest resource, and that scarcity changes everything. Simulation data projects rear tire degradation increasing by 8 to 12% without the predictable aero platform. That extra wear forces earlier pit stops or conservative driving, both eroding the margin that kept Verstappen ahead.
Hadjar's smoother throttle application might actually manage the new, less stable rear more effectively. As Jensen Button noted, when the car changes, the driver who resets their mental model fastest gains the advantage.
The real story is not about who loses more time. It is about who adapts faster when the rules shift mid-season. If Hadjar finds confidence, while Verstappen fights to reclaim his edge, Red Bull's internal dynamic could flip in ways no simulation predicted. That internal shift matters, because while drivers recalibrate, the teams around them are already moving. And the ripple effects are about to reshape the entire midfield battle. Lando Norris and the McLaren MCL 39 are ready to pounce. When aero advantages compress, their package designed for high mechanical grip suddenly becomes the benchmark. Mercedes with the W16 and Ferrari with the SF26 are not waiting to attack. Each team has a different technical path to exploit Red Bull's vulnerability, and that diversity changes the entire championship calculus. But here's what the paddock is not talking about. Andrea Stella noted that when the performance window narrows, operational excellence becomes the differentiator. At circuits with long straights like Baku or Monza, losing blown exhaust downforce could cost Red Bull 0.3 seconds in corner exit, while saving only 0.1 seconds in drag. That net loss, combined with higher tire degradation, opens the door. Toto Wolff framed it simply. We do not need them to fail. We just need the rules to level the playing field. But while rivals see opportunity, Red Bull is not standing still. The real danger is not that Red Bull is slow, it is that they are dangerous when cornered, and that is where this story gets complicated. Because while the field prepares to strike, the innovation race inside Red Bull's garage is already accelerating, and their response might be the most unpredictable variable of all. What the data actually shows is that Red Bull's wind tunnel correlation for the blown exhaust effect sat at 94%. Replacing that fidelity takes time the championship cannot afford. Under aerodynamic testing restrictions, every wind tunnel run spent fixing the past is an hour not invested in the next breakthrough. The garage knows this trade-off better than anyone. Paul Monahan has emphasized that Red Bull does not chase lost performance. They redefine the performance envelope. When the FIA tightened floor rules in 2023, the team responded with a mid-season upgrade that recovered the deficit. But that solution took 4 races to materialize. Early simulation work suggests a redesigned rear floor could recover 60 to 70% of the lost downforce. The caveat is tire degradation. If the fix arrives at round 10, Red Bull risks losing 2 or 3 races where the field is closest. That window could swing 40 to 60 constructor points, a margin that reshapes the title fight. For Red Bull fans, engineering depth remains the ultimate weapon. For rivals, the constraints are real, and that tension defines the next chapter. Because while Red Bull races against the clock, the championship calculus is already shifting in ways no simulation can fully predict. Max Verstappen will adapt, he always does. But the margin he once commanded has shrunk from a chasm to a thread. His advantage no longer comes from a dominating car. It now depends on extracting every last tenth from a machine that no longer offers the same safety net. The data tells a completely different story. If Red Bull's qualifying edge falls from 7/10 to 3/10, their pole probability at the next 5 races drops from 85% to 55%. Without a large performance buffer, Red Bull can no longer afford conservative tire strategies. Every undercut attempt becomes a genuine threat. Race strategy simulations show that with a 0.3 second gap, the optimal pit window narrows by 2 or 3 laps. That compression increases the chance of errors. As Martin Brundle observed, when the car is not a safety net, the driver's mental game becomes the championship variable. But the real question is not whether Red Bull can recover. It is whether they can recover fast enough to stop the story from changing forever. Every race spent vulnerable is a race where momentum can shift, where belief can spread, where a single result can rewrite the narrative. And that is where this story reaches its tipping point. Because while the championship fight intensifies, the bigger picture is already taking shape. And the next section reveals what happens when the present crisis meets the future of the sport. This moment is not just about one car concept. It is a signal that the 2026 regulatory era will prioritize power unit innovation and sustainable aero, areas where Red Bull's dominance is less assured. The team now faces a dual challenge: fix the RB21's present vulnerability while accelerating development for a clean sheet design. Every resource spent on recovery is a resource not invested in the future. For Max Verstappen, winning in a dominant car is one thing. Winning when the field closes in is what cements greatness. This moment is his opportunity to prove the driver, not just the machine, is the champion. Liam Hadjar, now in his second full season, is being thrust into a high-pressure development race that could fast-track his growth. Early studies suggest teams who master new power unit integration will gain 0.8 to 1.2 seconds. Every regulation change writes a new story. Every team that adapts fastest claims the next chapter. Red Bull has been here before. Moments where something was taken away. Moments where they came back stronger, but this time carries a different weight. The gap between losing an advantage and replacing it is where championships are decided. And right now, that gap is wide open. In Formula One, dominance is not taken. It is borrowed. And the moment the field believes they can take it back, the real race begins.